Hi everyone, so today we're going to be going through the kip on the rings, and this can be used quite well for building towards kipping ring muscle ups. So what I'm going to do for today is actually break this down into two parts. The first part is going to be the swing with the legs, transitioning a little bit between the hollow position to an extended position. And then the second part will be adding in the hip extension, which will be the drive, say the kip. Okay, so on a set of high rings, I'm going to set myself up and I'm going to use a false grip. If you're learning, I recommend practice with a false grip, but this could also be done with a normal grip as well. So then I'm going to step off, and now the first drill is simply going from this position to this position. I'm keeping my feet together in front. You might let the feet open up behind, but when they come forwards, try to bring them back together if so. So you notice I'm also not lifting my legs very high. What I'm focused on is just going through into a slight hollow and then into extension, and I'm just trying to get a rhythm going. Okay, that rhythm is what's going to give me a bit more speed, allow me to not rely too much on strength as well. In terms of what I'm doing with the arms, they're very much relaxed at the moment, okay? I'm just keeping the false grip, but I have my palms facing slightly forwards. This is something you could explore. Maybe going slightly more towards a neutral grip position might suit you better as well. So from that exercise, we build on top by adding in the hip extension. A couple of ways you can do it when first learning. Get that rhythm with moving the legs back and forth. Once you have that rhythm, you have that timing, add in a hip extension. So, now what I did there, as I swung forwards with the legs, the minute I started to feel my legs drop down, I'm driving through with my hips. I'm extending through the hips, and simultaneously, I'm now beginning to pull down with my arms, keeping them relatively straight. If I get the timing right, I'm going to feel very light, and that's what's going to allow me to get some height towards the rings for the kipping muscle up. Once I get better with that, I can then start thinking about stringing the reps together, and it will look like this. So then that's where you want to be ending up towards, being able to string your reps together, and then just getting very good at that timing, how much you can pull your hips into the rings, keeping the arms relatively straight. So if you've been managing quite well with the last two drills, your timing's good, you managed to get some height up towards the rings, the hips are getting close to the rings, then the next stage will be practice pulling yourself over the rings, the transition. So for this, very much everything is the same, but then you want to finally commit to pulling yourself into the rings and landing into the bottom of the dip. So this is where you're going to have elbow bending happening, and you'll want to be able to get right here in this bottom position comfortably. This should almost feel like a rest position. This is where things like the jumping muscle up, getting used to jumping and landing without much control in the bottom of that dip position will give you an idea how it might feel working on the high rings. So the steps remain the same, okay? The moment I finish with the pull and hip drive, I'm going to add in a pull into pulling myself over the rings. I'm going to explain and show this how it would be almost for a beginner, meaning that I'm going to get that rhythm first with swinging the legs forwards and backwards. Once I feel I've got that timing and rhythm going, I'll commit to the rep where I'll simultaneously drive through with the arms and extend through the hips, but also add in a final piece of pulling myself into the rings. So here will be a demonstration. And this is where I want to be landing, nice and comfortable in the bottom of my dip position. So I would advise practice single reps like that. Once you start to get comfortable, then start to focus on stringing them together, where you can then start to add in a press, work on the descent, and landing back into a nice position that allows you to kip straight back into the next rep.